I couldn't get at the printers from my phone
Good
again.
morning, everyone. Well, of 22 people who registered for part one, we only have, well, less than half so far this morning. So I guess people are out shoveling. I hope you're all well. If you are not muted now, could you please mute your microphones? You'll find the control for that in the lower left-hand corner. Good morning, George. Good to see you with us. I'm going to get started, and hopefully a few more will join us in a couple of minutes. Just let me get a different slide deck up for you. Well, again, welcome to part two of our build series. And here's what we're going to be covering today. I've just got a couple of quick announcements for you. Then we're going to take a look at the pictures that have been submitted by modelers. And then we'll turn things over to Ralph Renzetti out of Toronto. And we hope that you got a chance to look at the video that he made available to you. It gives some background of the weathering technique that he'll be spending some time talking about, as well as just the work that he did on his version of the ITLA kit. We'll have a very quick break for you. And then after the break, George will take us through some more modeling tips. And you may remember that he said when he got looking at some of the extras that came in the kit, he wondered if it was possible to build something from it. So we'll get to see his creativity in that regard. And we should, if we stay pretty close to the time that we've sketched out for ourselves, we should have about 15, maybe even 20 minutes at the end where we can all have a chat. We'd certainly like to hear back from you in a couple of areas. One is we'd really like to know whether any of you would be interested in a follow-up session. I've said an hour here, but probably it would be less than that. The main purpose would be presumably by then, those of us who haven't been able to finish our kits as of this point will have done so. So if you submitted some pictures, we would do a similar share at the beginning of the program. However, we would like to hear from at least 10 of you in order to proceed, to make it really worth our while to get together. If you would like to chat, send your message to us via the chat at any time during the next 90 minutes, that would be fine. I've got the program recording, and I'll just make sure that those settings are still working. Yes, they are.
Oh,
so we
want
get
to go out?
Of the chat in addition to the video. So any of you that
Do you want to go out?
Excuse me, if you could make sure you're muted.
Oh, okay.
Could you please mute your microphones? Thank you. We'll get a copy of the chat and we can see your name. All you'll have to do is say yes for March the 5th. The other thing is, if we have time left over at the very end, we'd love to hear your feedback on the kit. I'm sure that Nick Massney would love to hear what you thought of the kit that he put together. And we'd certainly like to know if you'd be interested in a similar series, either late this year or perhaps at the beginning of 2023. The other thing that you may have seen in the slide wheel, and I apologize for the technical glitch. Everything worked okay yesterday. I started to get two songs playing at the same time. But the point is that we're going to be having the 4th edition of what we call What I Modeled During the Pandemic. And it's been marvelous. We've had modelers from New England and Eastern Canada all the way out to the Prairie and Vancouver participating. But certainly we would very much like to see more pictures from members of the NFR. You may have noticed we included some sample pictures from last May, and we had people from SLD as well as the International Division join in as well. So instructions are at the bottom. If you can submit by April the 15th, April the 15th, 3 color photographs in an email. If they are large, and we like them large in terms of richness, it's probably ideal that you would send them as 3 separate emails with the picture attached. Please include your name, where you're living, the scale of your layout, and of course, a brief description for each of the pictures. You saw the kinds of information that modelers have been providing in the past with the 4 examples that we included. And again, I apologize to people. You would think I would know what my proper email address was, but it got shortened when it was created. And so it's super, not superintendent, super@wad-nmra.ca. And just a little plug as well, we are working away on the April edition of our news magazine. We accept all sorts of things, not just articles, but we've had photo essays and PowerPoint, do-it-yourself, just sort of pictures walking through, track plans, layouts under construction, kit bashes, all sorts of really cool stuff have been submitted by modelers. And if you're thinking about working toward your merit award through the AP program, articles that are published by us qualify. And we also accept articles that have been published elsewhere. We just need to know where and when so that we can give them proper credit. Now, we'd love to hear your ideas in advance, but if you've got something that you'd like to submit, just drop the superintendent a note and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So without any further ado, let's see how we've been doing on the kit. And sorry, someone still has their microphone on. We're hearing background noise from your household. Could you please make sure that your microphone is on mute? The control is in the lower left-hand corner. It is an old-fashioned stand-up microphone. Click on that, please, and you should see a red hash sign through the microphone. Thank you so much. So here are the pictures that were submitted, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't keep a tally of actually how many of you submitted, but it's a real inspiring collection. The very first person to work on his kit, in fact, was Pat Rivard, a member of the WOD, and Pat was working on a O-scale test kit that Nick put together for him, and we'll be marketing it at some point down the road. So here is the finishing work that Pat did on the various components. Here's a shot of the interior under construction. And here's a picture of a nearly completed interior, lots and lots of detail. And you'll notice in the write-up that Pat has a habit of illuminating all the structures on his layout. So there is a small LED light that will be up in the rafters just above this individual. Really neat. George submitted one of the many versions of this kit that he put together. George always is displaying a great sense of humor as well as eye for detail. So you'll notice the little hitchhiker, or maybe it's a resident, up in the rafters on this version of the kit. And there it is from the backside. Ron Johnson from the International Division submitted a couple of photos of his completed kit. I must admit, when I see all the people who've finished, I'm sort of green with envy. I'm still working away. Ron was able to add lots of details from his parts bin to the kit, and it's found a home on his layout. Graham McDonald, one of the MMRs in the WOD, submitted several shots of his build. Again, lots of detail. You notice that he used framing, as certainly Pat had done, colored it with Hunterline dark brown. Then he brush painted the trim, and he's mimicking the Grand Trunk Railroad color scheme. I've just noticed now the nail holes that Graham also included, and lots of tools. And another shot from above. And of course, you've gotten the preview that Graham built a diorama. He thought it looked a little lonely sitting all by itself, the shed that is, And so from the things that he's kept with him for modeling during a recent move from his home to or his house, I should say, to an apartment with his lovely wife, he managed to scrounge up all these materials to make this a really interesting action scene. Fortunately for the crew, the repair work was adjacent to the shed. They didn't have to travel far. Telegraph poles and whistle posts, and all sorts of detail really helped to build a really neat scene. And you'll see at the very bottom bullet, he used a underlined blue-gray, and of course, dry brushing to finish off the roof. Nice detail. Thank you. Ron Tuff, another MMR, this time from the International Division, sent this shot of his, I believe, finished shack, certainly very well developed. Once again, rafters were created with, in his case, 2x3 stud walls. Graham and I both use 2x4. I think most of us use 2x4, but it doesn't matter. One of the changes that Ron made to his version of the ITLA kit is he reversed the roof. I think George had done this on at least one of his builds, and Ron custom made these shingles, which surely is a labor of love, out of 2020 grit sandpaper to represent 3-tab shingles, and then painted them with a mix that he had done. This paint scheme is the one that was or is used by the British Columbia Railway, or was, I guess I should say, in the mid-1980s. And as with Graham, he's added pastels and chalks to the bottom, so we got a bit of dirt kicking up off the ground, probably through the rain. Lots of interior detail. A number of these are scratch built, like the bench. This chair is a product from a Canadian company that is into 3D printing called Yelton Models. You might want to check them out on the web. They have a lot of interesting things in certainly N and HO scale. Garbage can is from Junico, and I think both this cabinet as well as the workbench were scratch built by Ron. And details of the roof with the rafters in place and looking down into the structure from above. Really cool. I know Ron told me we had a phone call. I had been wondering whether it was possible, but he confirmed these paint cans were made out of rod cut to appropriate length, and then sides painted and tips as well, of course, to simulate metal. Ken Leyland sent us this, all the components. He used Craftsmart acrylic paint from Michaels, keeping the price down. Good move. For the outside walls, the trim and the roof, underlined stains on the floor and the inside walls. And he used northeastern scale lumber. I'm assuming 2x4, it didn't say, but lots of detail, lots of detail. Notice another little chairs, almost looks like the Elton model, maybe from another source. Fortunately, it wasn't noted in the write-up. Grant Knowles submitted this interestingly aged structure, provided a base coat of gray paint and then sponged with white and brown over top, so a layered up look. Again, we can see the framing on the inside, looks like 2x4, and he's found a place for it on his layout. Another view of same. Really nice detail. I love the texturing that many of us have come up with where the structure hasn't been well maintained. And he's got a to-do list of things that he's working on. Notice he's going to be adding a corrugated roof. Cool. And lots of equipment. Adrian sent us this photo of what he's completed. So he added a small base out the front, little raised portico underneath the doors, and he's finished it with paints and figures and rust on the roof. Rodney sent us this picture of his still to be completed version of the kit. Been using a mix of underline blue gray stain and Minwax red chestnut for the trim. And I found this really interesting. He switched the window material to vellum. He's going to be installing an LED, which is something I'm working toward with a part from fellow modeler. And he found that vellum reduces the amount of brightness from the light, which is interesting. Malcolm out of St. Lawrence Division. He's using his kit sort of along the lines of what Ron Tuff was doing to represent British Columbia. Malcolm's using this as a stand-in for a CP rail tool shed in the 1955 time period. So he's added the rafters, scribed the underside, and he's finished the roof with Umber Indy inks. And he's going to have a removable roof. Many of us have gone that route as well, which is interesting, either the whole roof or part of the roof. And the inside detail of what Malcolm's done is I found really fascinating. He has information on how the CP are normally set these up. Apparently it was quite standardized across Canada. And so he's built these bins out of leftover material from the kit, and the internal ribs that you see in the lower bin were made with cardstock, and this upper storage area that'll hold bolts and spikes and things like that. It's made entirely of cardstock, and then the hanging racks around the walls. I'm not sure the size of the wire, but really intricate little work. You'll see, I'm sure, where all the wires have been set into boards, and then the boards affixed to the walls. And another view of same. And again, like many of us, he's been putting lots of time and effort into the details, but still needs to work on some of the trim and the finer points before final assembly. Oh, there's the reference. It's 0.008 wire that's used for the hanging posts. Jeff sent us in this picture, similar tool set on the inside and framing. And he did report that he had a little bit of challenge getting the glazing fitting into the window openings. Another view. He got his pictures to me, I think, yesterday morning. So yes, indeed, he was working on it to the wee hours to get it going. And here's a shot in progress of construction with the doors being braced while the glue dried. Used a mixture of Vallejo buff and natural steel for the trim and for the metal parts. And the tools he scrounged from an old motor power kit. Great. And John Wagner sent us in this picture of his nearly completed structure. John's painting it in NEC colors. And you can see some of the detail, a very detailed bench that's been built here. I'm not sure if that's a scratch build or an item out of the parts box, but nice bit of detail coming along there. And I decided I would try to see so it would fit on my layout, which is TH&B. I went through various tool shed pictures and came up with this one. What's interesting about it for me is that it's so dilapidated. Railroads generally keep all their structures, including their tool sheds, in pretty good working order. They don't want passengers going by and thinking that they're similarly not looking after their track. But this one was photographed by the archivist for the TH&B Society the year that the CP absorbed TH&B, and it's been pretty abused where it was located in Port Maitland. Well, what do you know? I had some more pictures, but it looks like I forgot to to save them. Well, the gremlin strikes me. Any rate, I do have the kit partially built, and I've been working on some aging of the outside of the wood. What I did was I used a combination of the hairspray method and daubed on for some of the larger lifts, like here on the door, which you'll notice is a split door. I used daubs of contact cement, and I sealed the wood after I stained it to give it a bit of weathering, and then I sponged on a light mix of the New York Central paint, and then selectively removed it with water and toothpicks, and then just rubbing it with my finger. I think I've got 3 walls attached. One of the pictures that I was going to show you is, I don't know if anybody else had this issue, but despite the fact that I painted both sides of the wood, and I also put it under machine weights at times while things were drying, I did discover that the floor and one of the walls warped on me. So I came up with a little a tourniquet rubber band method of straightening out the floor while one of the end walls was glued to another, and that seems to have at least straightened out the floor. So I'm working my way through it, but like a number of you, I still have the roof is done, but I still have interior details. I'm waiting for things to arrive. Unfortunately, I don't have a robust parts box. But I'll be interested to hear, as we work toward the end of today's program, how you found building this particular kit. Anyway, sorry if I didn't get my pictures out to you, but thank you all very much for sharing all of yours. Really, really great work. What I'd like to do now is, I'm just looking across to make sure he's here. Ralph has not joined us. So George, I know you can hear me. I had sent Ralph all the material, and I also sent him a separate email letting him know when he was going to be on, which was just about now. And yeah, he's definitely not here. Sorry, I'm just looking across the titles. So we have 17 of the 22 from last week, just to report on numbers. George, would you be willing and able to take over now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I noticed he wasn't here, but possibly if we do a March one, we can have Ralph do his presentation then.
Yes, that sounds fine. All right, I'll go mute myself, and you're available to screen share if you'd like to take things over from here. Much appreciated.
Okay, I'm assuming everybody can see my screen and can hear me. I'm surprised how many guys have finished their kits and actually have finished them with interior details, which is quite nice to see.
You're good, George. I can see it and I can hear you just fine.
Great, okay. So some of the stuff I was going to cover will be helpful for the guys that are still working on theirs, but other than that, it's just a look of what I did with my kit and what I did with the leftover pieces. I was hoping to do a second little structure with the leftover pieces, but we had my father-in-law passed away. So this is actually, I'm at his house right now doing this while my wife visits with the mother-in-law. So here we go. So the windows, I noticed everybody had windows in their structure, and one thing I like doing on a few of them is adding broken windows and cracks in it. And you can leave them shiny, you know, the way they are, but being it's a small little shed and it's something that that's, you know, weather beaten usually, so they're dirty looking. I don't think they ever get cleaned. So I use sandpaper, just really, really fine sandpaper, and I rub them along. So as you can see here, I've got it on my finger. I just damp wet my finger and then rub it along the sandpaper. That seems to be the easiest. It's better than trying to use the sandpaper and rub it in. Here you can see what it looks like if you left it shiny. But this, you don't have to do many passes with it to get it looking the way it is. There you can see it finished and put in behind. I sometimes, if there's a lot of shine, a little bit of shine, I do both sides. So I'll put the flat, make it look flat on both sides. You can do the same thing with dull coat if you want. There's one that's just plain, and you can see that's that's after it's passed on one side, but you can see that when you push in with your hobby knife, it actually puts a little indentation. So sometimes you want to sand it on both sides, and it kind of cleans it up a bit as it looks there. So another thing I did is I wanted to do one of the windows as open. You can see you can buy castings for windows that are open, but what I did was I just cut one of the windows in half and added a new little piece. And then when I set it in there, I just, one was right up against the top and the other part was partly open, kind of giving you that look. So it's kind of a neat little effect too, if you want to do an open window. None of my other sheds I did any of that, but I thought, oh, give it a try, something different. And there you can kind of see all my windows there that I used. I usually try to board some up. Sorry, I went a little fast here. This thing's a little touchy on me. Yeah, you can see there's my broken one. One is just dirty looking, just sanded, and then the other one was open. And I actually installed them all prior to assembling them. And another option I did on my other kits was I just board them up. So all you need to do is put this frame around and save this little window, because you can use that in another project, and then just put a bunch of boards across it. And you can see on this one, these are the roofs were done on my other ones with tar paper, which is construction paper that I spray painted green, and that one had like a dark brown on it, and then just sand it lightly and then just cut into it, for your rough edges and stuff like that. So kind of gives you a different look. A lot of the CN ones over the years, they had tar paper on near the end. So it's something you can play around with. You can just reverse the roofs. So use the flat side and then do it. Or as in this one here, I think what I did was I cut some of the sheeting. There's enough sheeting there that you can make it. And you can add a stack to your roof. That another little bit of interest in there. You can actually put a stove in there if you want, if you're doing a full interior. Okay, so when I did my bracing on there, you can see I braced all around, but when I went to assemble it, I realized, because on this one here, I put the bracing right on the edge, so I had to pull some of the bracing off, which you can see these two are here. They're from on the end walls, because it just won't fit together if you got too much bracing in there. So this kind of gives you a look at how that's going together. My coloring, I used an acrylic paint, and then just any kind of Tuscan red kind of thing, and then I went over it with pan pastels. That kind of gives you a different shade to it. The roof I'd already done prior. So pan pastels is a good option. Just put a base coat of whatever you want on there, and excuse me, and then just cover it with that. And on the side edges, I just go along. That's raw umber shade. You can see there's not much left in there. That's one of my favorite colors for doing weathering. So most of the interior boards and everything is all highlighted with a pan pastel raw umber shade. On the roof, I also added a bit of raw umber shade. The original coating was in ink and alcohol, and then it was highlighted with some dry brush of acrylic white from the dollar store. And the rest is just different tones of pan pastels on the roof. It's got a really nice roof. I really like those shingles. They really stand out. One of the nicer features of the kit. On the bottom, a little trick I use to kind of add a little extra weathering. You can use rust streaks, or what I do is dip my brush in thinner first and then just a dab of this, let it pull itself up along the bottom. You can use, there's a wood tone that you can use, but I had the rust streak out and it does the same thing. It looks pretty bright in that, but it does dull down as it dries. It turns into just a hint of color in there. All the hinges and that I installed and just highlighted it with some Bragdon powders. Just there's 3 different colors of rust, so I just kind of dab them on the hinges. And you can see how that the AK rust, you know, just a little bit extra weathering on the bottom, just with a lot of thinner on it. It just gives you a bit of a highlight. My mouse is touchy for some reason. And like a lot of you, I was surprised how many guys actually put interiors in. Some really nice interiors I saw today. That you guys did a really good job. I did the same thing. I made my roof removable, and most of these detail parts are all titchy parts. So a titchy barrel, broom, the acetylene tanks. These are just the leftover pieces that I was using for bracing. I used 2x4, but I noticed one of the modelers was using 2x3, which probably would look a little bit better. It's the 2x4s are a little bit big, and I just, you know, newspapers. That's another titchy part, and just some signs on there. These are laser cut plates. They're from Monster tie plates. They're from Monster Model Works. I think he's still back putting certain things out. He shut his business down, but he started back up. So I think you can still get these from. That's one of the things. And a few of the boards. So mine's a little, everybody's look kind of organized. Mine's kind of junky looking here. I just got stuff thrown around. But, and you can see that's just from a nickel set that I cut out the color copied, and then I cut it out. That's a DWP logo, so it's in there just because it probably fell off a car somewhere and they didn't know what to do with it, so I threw it in the shed. But there's, you know, some more of the titchy parts there. So that's kind of how my interior looks. And I put all the supports, roof supports, and on both ends, you can see there's a pigeon at that end and a pigeon at that end. One thing I didn't model was I should have had some of their droppings on the floor. So that's something I'll probably go back and put a bit of splatter on the floor so that a little more realistic. Won't add any of the smell, but it just, you know, another little feature. And once again, you can see that was in one of Paul's slides in his presentation. So that's basically how the whole kit looks. And the signages, there was a few guys asked for some signs with the death of my father-in-law. I just haven't had a chance to make them out, but they're still going to come out. I just have to get down and get them photocopied. And a couple more views of, you know, with some signs, just railway property, no trespassing, and you know, whatever. That's actually a fragile sign that is a sticker that goes on different CN products that they have, and I just reduced it down as small as I could, and with a color copier, and I've just used it as signage. So I guess we were going to look at working on our kits, but I don't know if there's too many guys that really need to work on them at all. So we're going to have maybe a bit of a break now, Paul. What do you say? And then we'll take a look at what I did with some of the leftover pieces.
Do you want to pause for a moment and see if there are any questions? Yes, as you're suggesting.
Yeah, we can
just take a look at the chat and see if there's there's no questions so far in the chat, but I can give you a bit of information. Ken, who had a picture in the share that we had at the beginning, and he was saying, yes, he used 2x3, so a sharp eye, George, and the chair that I picked out in that array of parts and components. It is indeed a Yelton 3D resin model. So do check out the Yelton site. It's got a lot of really cool things. Ron Tuff actually put me onto them about a month ago. So does anyone have any questions they want to, or comments they want to ask or direct toward George?
Not really.
I'll just see if I can bring everybody up so I can see the assembled group.
Why don't we ask the guys who's got their kits totally done? Like we do know some of the guys. Is there somebody in our group here today that's still working on theirs?
Yes.
I am.
I'm just looking
I'm
down
still
the list.
working on mine. It's Malcolm.
Who is that, please?
It's Malcolm. I'm still working on mine.
But look at all the
All right.
detail you've included, Malcolm.
Yeah. It'll be a while yet.
I am really impressed by how many guys have made removable roofs. I guess nobody read the instructions because none of that was in the instructions. Everybody seemed to have their own way of doing it, which is good, And in the interiors, I had out of the models I've seen, prior to this, I haven't seen anybody build one with an interior on it. So that's kind of nice that we've got so many guys, taking it a step further. Are you still working on yours, Peter? Oops.
Peter, you'll have to unmute.
Oh, he's just
Yeah,
sitting
we're-
down there.
Excuse me. Yeah, we're still working on ours. My buddy and I, he's a snowmobiler, and today happened to be a day that he could do some snowmobiling, and there's only a few a year, so he's out doing that. But we worked on them last week a bit, and I've kind of got mine done. I don't know if you can see it on screen or not.
Yeah.
Not quite finished, but
George, you're still sharing?
Okay, I'll stop sharing here.
Yes, okay.
so
I'm sorry, who
it's,
was it that was commenting?
this is Peter.
Oh, hi, Peter. Peter, if you want to go to the bottom of your screen and click on the share button, do you know how to work that in Zoom?
Where's
So you go to the bottom of your screen and there'll be a green button that says share.
Yeah, I'm not using my regular computer because I've had some
The controls are
computer
the
problems.
same. Controls should
So
be
I'm
the same.
doing this on an iPad, and I'm not very. Oh, there it is. Okay,
You can see
it's
it
at the
there.
top
Okay.
on this. you
So
see.
once you get the white dialog box in the center of your screen, find where your PowerPoint is with the picture that you want to share.
I don't
click
have a
on that,
picture.
And
just
then
holding
in
it in my
the lower
hand.
right-hand corner is a button in blue. And when you click on that blue button, we will see what's on your computer.
Yeah, I don't have a picture. So I'm just holding it in my hand.
Oh, I misunderstood. Okay. All right,
Yeah.
please proceed. I'm sorry.
All right. Yeah, I found that all the stuff on the iPad are at the top instead of the bottom, so I was a little clued out. But yeah, I'm got the interior is going to be visible from the door only. I haven't taken the roof off, and I haven't put much inside. But with that one door open, there's not going to be a whole lot there. But I painted it with a sponge, and I forget what the color is, some crappy yellow. And it's kind of in the Colorado colors of the narrow gauge stuff. And I might use it on the narrow gauge part of my railway. So, but as George said, the roof is really good as is. It's awesome. I'm quite impressed by the work that they did producing it. So that's the best part of it. I had some trouble with the windows as well. They were not quite the right size, but with some filing and sanding, I managed to get them in there. But having put 2x4s around on the inside, then the window was that much more difficult to put in. But we did manage to get it done without any too much renovations. And my partner, he hasn't done his stuff to that extent yet. He just got started because he missed the first show and kind of got filled in by me, and we spent an hour working on them together last week. And but there we are. So it was kind of fun. I've got a little bit of weathering to do yet with some powders and stuff, and it's a good project.
Yes, Peter, your image was very clear. If you could pick up the kit again and just tilt the roof toward it, everyone can see the work that you did on the roof.
I didn't do much other than
put it in front of your face, and yeah, perfect.
there we go.
Yeah.
I didn't do much other than a little bit of hunter line streaking, and so far that's it. And same with the brown trim. I was really slack there. I didn't even paint it. It's the brown that it came in, and it was close to the right color. So at my aging eyes can't tell the difference, and I don't think anyone else will when they're looking at stuff on the layout. I'm always amazed at how much you can get away with in the interiors and stuff by not being that accurate, because you really can't see it that clearly. As long as the image is there, it works.
I found over the years working on structures, you don't have to do a lot of weathering. Like a lot of guys weather paint and put a lot of time into all the walls, but if you do a really good job on the roof, that seems to draw everybody's eyes to it, and they think the whole structure is weathered, but it's just basically the roof.
I've been doing a lot of interiors.
Made by George Celios in one of the write-ups over the years. He talked about the very point that you made, George, that because we tend to look down on our layouts most of the time, the roofs of not only structures, but also rolling stock and engines tend to get a lot of attention. Sorry.
Yeah, that's great. Gary Shergold, how are you doing with your kit? And I know I think you had one or two other guys supposed to be working on them also.
That's correct. Yes, I built 3, and 2 of the other fellows in the club built 1 each. I took the first one I did just as a regular shack with a little bit of detail in the open doorway. And the other 2 that I built, I took 2 and made 1. So it's actually a double.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
I can get it if you want to see it.
Yeah.
Just a comment that I forgot to emphasize, George, if I may, while Gary's getting his model or models. Graham, who's one of our MMRs, pointed out that for many of us, the work that you've done on your trackside shed by adding the bracing and the interior details. I know a number of you have flipped the roof over and done other roofing treatment rather than just sticking with what came in the kit. Graham observed that we could probably get basic points for the kit structure and even some more points because of the customization. And Graham, perhaps at some point, you might want to amplify what I just said, but we'll turn things back over to Gary, who's just arrived back with his models.
Yeah, as I picked the model up, one of the doors fell off. This is, I don't know if you can see that. This is what I had done. It's I took 2 kits, made it into 1 kit. It's has detail inside benches. Can you see that, Paul?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I put I went with George's little clinic there back in St. Thomas and put tar paper roof on. and added some signs. Little signs on the back, etc. And around private property, danger, keep out, employees only type thing.
Now, did you put that tar paper roofing right over top of the shingles? I noticed there's part of the roof showing. Or
No,
did you? flip it
the,
over?
yeah, part of the roof, I wanted the shingles sort of worn away a little bit in that one corner. And what I had done was that is a scratch built roof. I
Okay.
saved the roofs from all the parts. Now with 3 kits, I ended up with a lot of parts. And I am going to take all those parts and I'm going to make one building out of all of them. And sometime in the future, I can maybe take a photograph and share it with the rest of you. But I'm very surprised. I heard that some of the people had trouble with the windows. I built 3 of these, and I had no problem with the windows at all. They fit in perfect. Even the clear acetate that went in, it fit in just perfect. You follow the rules that he had in the instructions. Everything just fit in nice and snug. The frames fit in nice and snug. They were pressure fitted in. So I really had no problem at all with it. And they are quite nice kits.
Thank you, Gary.
You're welcome.
Any questions or comments from anyone? Or we'll get back to George. George is another short deck of what he did with the leftover pieces. Graham, did you want to comment on my comment about how these kits might be used as a part of judging?
Yes, thank you, Paul. I'm going to hold this up to show you the framing underneath the shed. It makes it look like it belongs there rather than just sitting on the ground, where of course in real life the floor would rot out if you did that. So it needs some airspace underneath it. But all of the finished models that have been shown have all had slightly different details. And if you combined a lot of those details into this one little shack, you could probably get a very good point score on a merit award. Just for this tiny little kit built shed. It's just an illustration of how things can be done in the achievement program without a huge amount of effort or trying to build an entire sawmill or something. You don't have to do that. It's a simple kit, but with lots of added detail and attention to finish. And Paul, your photograph of a real life shed is a very good illustration of what you need to do for the conformity section of the AP requirements. Just give a little bit of history and some photographs and some commentary about the color schemes. And there you have probably 15 points without even doing very much effort. Just a little bit of time on the internet looking for photographs. It's well worth doing, and I'd encourage anybody who's even built this little project, if you want to have it judged sometime, just let the board know, or let Paul know, or even myself, and we'll come and evaluate it for you.
Thank you, Graham. Thanks very much. Graham's given me just a little bit of a segue, if I may, George. One of the things that Graham and a couple of the people that are on this call today are doing is currently in the WOD, our AP chair position is vacant. The the chairperson in the past, Steve Juranics, is working full time and has just found it too much of a load for him. So we are working, a group of us, not just to find a suitable individual to take on that role, but also to reinvigorate or maybe resuscitate our program here. And one of the things that we brainstormed and felt that modelers like me who are relatively new to this hobby would benefit from is a mentoring program. So one of the things we're going to work toward is recruiting a team of people across a very large geographic area. But of course, if it's just coaching, it can be done by phone, by Zoom. Ron Tuff, who is on this call, is the AP chair for the ID, and he's been of great assistance, and I know does some of this as well. We're going to work at developing a training program and solicit input from SLD. Have some great modelers up there, and of course the ID as well, and the resources that are available through the NMR. So we don't want to just help people get to the paperwork, the merit awards. We want to help people to develop, who are interested in this, to develop better modeling skills. And I know I've learned a great deal in the past 5 or 6 weeks through the contact that I've had with all of you. And I was so motivated as your pictures started coming in the last 4 to 5 days. I'm really impressed with the work that we're all doing. And I think the help of the MMRs that are on this call and other skilled modelers will help to take us to another level. So thank you. Thank you for the share that you've done today. And thank you for all the hard work that you've put in. And thank you, Graham, for letting us know that apart from personal satisfaction, if a piece of paper makes you feel that you're achieving something in the eyes of your peers, then at some point through your various divisions, maybe we can get your kits evaluated. And one last little suggestion as well, or maybe it's a plug. Again, I'm going back to an earlier slide that I showed you. We will be having in May of this year a slide share showing. So if your finished kit and anything else that you've worked on in the past year, starting last May of 2021, you'd like to share it with us, please send it along with a brief write-up. I'll try to get the information out again, but we'd love to see a final photo of your shed as a part of a 2 or 3 picture contribution. And hopefully we can have lots of people contributing for the next May session. Any comments, any other questions, anything at this moment anyone else would like to share, or I'll turn things back to George.
We have 2 questions there. Rodney sent one. What size material is the frame made from? That's directed at Graham.
The framing underneath the shed is 4x6s. Could be any material, could be 4x4s, could be 2x8s, whatever you've got in your box, really. But it just, the shed needs to be lifted off the ground, and you can use it for shimming on an uneven ground as well, which is what I did at the back. I put a sill underneath all of the other cross ties.
Just a quick comment from my side. When I studied that prototype photograph, my shed is ultimately going to rest on a sort of a crib made of railroad ties.
Yeah,
that's how the TH&B did it, at least on that particular shed. Different sheds around their network seem to have different arrangements. But yeah, you're absolutely right. If you don't raise it, you lose the floor and the walls, by the way, at the bottom really, really quickly. They rot out.
I mean, you could put even a concrete pad underneath it, but that's probably a little out of character for the shed. I think it's a shed that's been plonked down there and just informal rather than permanent major structure.
I'm looking over at Ron Tuff's tile on my screen. What would be the BC Rail practice, Ron, for protecting the floors of their line-side structures?
Well, I would think most of them would use ties, not necessarily brand new ones, but ones that are still in good condition, and would be easy to for the railway to put together a cribbing, I guess you could call it, underneath the floor of the structure. And as Graham suggested, the whole structure could sit on a concrete floor as opposed to a wood floor, but I think that'd be a more modern construction material to use. Would depend on the era of your layout, I think.
Can I make a comment, Paul?
Absolutely, John, please.
Even if you're going to set it on a concrete pad, if you've got a wooden floor, those boards have to be nailed to something. So you're going to need some cross pieces going at the opposite angle to what your floorboards are.
Good point. Anyone who's finished a basement knows that if you're putting wood on concrete, in a modern building code era, you have to put a sill gasket underneath, which is a foam strip that prevents moisture from wicking up through the concrete into the wood. So good point, John. Thank you. So being aware of construction helps to build better models, I suppose, but a detailed eye. And again, a lot of you impressed me in that regard. Ken, did you have a comment you wanted to make?
Yeah, I do, Paul. My original intentions when I got the kit was to just basically build the kit as is. And when I went through the first hour and a half, I thought to myself, I can't just do the plain kit. I'd never detailed the interior of anything before. So within an hour of the session ending, I was at Dundas Hobbies getting the lumber I needed to do the interior of the building. And I've just been trying to scour through stuff I have. I actually went back to Dundas, got some industrial detail stuff that I could actually, I've got other ideas now for other kits that I can now do the interiors of. But my intentions at the start were just to build the kit as is. And when I saw the first hour and a half, I thought to myself, I just can't do that. I have to kind of step up my game and try an interior detail and see how it went. And it was a lot of fun to do it. I thoroughly enjoyed doing it. Now, when I see George's work and I see Ron's work, I go, I got a long way to go, but at least it's a start.
Yeah, they're the Ralph Nadals of modeling, but it's nice to have a goal that you're going to aspire toward. You mentioned Dundas Hobbies. For those in the Ottawa area, you wouldn't be, of course, at all familiar with it, but I think Ron Johnson just made me aware that that hobby store was still in operation. So the fact, Ken, that you've got some stuff that you've been able to buy there tells me it's worth me making the extra drive to check it out. For those of you who have a vague idea of the Ontario map, I live in a village just west of Waterloo, Ontario. So I'm sort of in the middle of nowhere, but I've got lots of variety around me. If there are no other questions, George, I think you said there was something else in the chat. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm just going to cover one other thing. What Graham did with his supports on his foundation, I'm clearly going to add that to mine. I really like how that looks, and that makes a lot of sense. Working for CN over the years, a lot of the little structures that were that size, they would be moved. You would find one, maybe at Kamoka, and then they'll move it to Wyoming or Watford, or maybe into London for use as storage. More so the metal ones that they could, easily lift up, but some of the wood ones did get moved too. So it wouldn't be uncommon to have, a structure in one scene and then have it in another scene at a later date, because they do try to repurpose as much as they can. We've got a comment from Malcolm Vant about the CB. I don't know if you want to read that one.
Yes, my mic's now on. So Malcolm, nice Canadian context. Thank you for that. For CP modelers, excuse me, the CP Historical Association Document Library is a great resource. They have detailed drawings of the exterior and the standard interior layouts for their section tool sheds. Oh, that's cool. Look on the CP Tracks website. If you have a moment in the remaining time, Malcolm, and you want to put a URL into the chat, that would help some. And he adds, he said, you have to register for the CP Tracks website.
Yep. To
But
use the
it's free.
document library, you have to register, but it's just a simple, you create a username and a password and then you're in. It's full of hundreds, if not thousands of plans. And it's relevant to what you're just talking about. It shows you how these little buildings are constructed. It tells you what size of materials were used, like 2x3s in these section tool sheds. It shows the underpinnings, like that it was sitting on, like, I think it's 4x4s in the CP tool shed case. And it kind of put me in the direction of how to lay out the interior, because like we like to make kind of whimsical looking things, but the in CP they had a standard layout of where each tool hung on the wall, and it was the same in all their, well, supposedly the same in all their tool sheds. So there's a lot of material there, and not just the tool sheds, but stations and platforms, you name it, coal bunkers. It's a great resource. Even if you're not a CP modeler, it shows you sort of how buildings are constructed. So if you want to put in that kind of detail, I'll put the URL for the CP Tracks website, but it's basically, then you have to dig into the plans. I'll put you, if anyone wants to know the plans for their tool shed, I can give you the drawing number.
That's great, Malcolm. Thank you. I know in an earlier conversation or an exchange with Ron Johnson out of the International Division, one of the things he was saying that many of us are often looking for is more Canadiana. There's a lot of, for obvious reasons, there's a lot of American information that is constantly appearing in the modeling magazines. But you know, the smaller number of Canadians, we do have some great resources available. I know I'm fortunate, given that I'm modeling the TH&B, there is an historic society with its own library and archivist that can support a modeler like me. But for those of you who are CP and CN, it's good to know that there are good resources out there. So thank you for sharing that, Malcolm. I've been surprised at the number of modelers, good modelers, in the Western Ontario Division who've been attracted to modeling New England. George, in fact, is one of those. And I know that there's, again, great resources available. A lot of the historical societies welcome modelers as their members, not just people who are interested in, you know, refurbishing and looking at the history of the prototype. So all of those associations, as Malcolm is pointing out, have many of them, if not all, resources that have been digitized and are available for free, or you register for free online. So great stuff. And of course, for those who want to do, I think someone used the term whimsical, or perhaps freelance might be the other term. Let your imagination be your guide, and then your modeling skills, your enabler. Are there any other comments, George?
No, not at the moment, but I was wondering if Pat Rivard has anything that he wanted to add to our little talk today before I get started.
Thanks, George. The one thing I did do in removable roof was I used the earth magnets to hold the roof on. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Yeah, and you just kind of embed them into a 4x4 structure along the edge of the roofing, so that when you put your roof on, it holds it nice and flat. And you can see the birds on there doing their job on it, that's for sure. But it makes it nice to be able to see the interior without having to remove the whole roof. The only thing I did do differently on the base was I used a stone foundation, because mine's going to be sitting in the engine yard and they're not going to move it around. It's going to be there permanently.
So that's a little different. I used also what I did it for was, if you were to bring some track work up for a gang car or whatever it is, it meets level with this flooring inside. And it makes it a lot easier to service and not open and be able to open the doors. Now, some people were asking about how I made the doors open. I used the heavy cardstock and I flexed them enough so that when I put them on as hinges, they worked quite well. But they also stay closed. I have a chain on the door with a couple of eyelets there. So that's just a little different. Inside, I put the light, of course. I'm a crazy man when it comes to lighting everything. I can put a light on everything I can. So it's crazy. I don't know if you can see it in there dangling around. I ran the wiring across and down a small tube on the outside, and also made sure I added a meter because you can't have hydro in a building without the meter there for some reason or another. Other than that, I use LED lighting, and I did have trouble with the windows because there's a pro runner of the O scale, and I don't think he had sized it quite wide enough for it to fit in. Anything else I can think of? Yes, I did put nail holes and nails on all of the siding, and I put little cut marks to show dividing points that the siding came together at. And I did signage as everybody else did. Everybody see this all right? Can you see it okay?
Good, Pat.
Yeah.
I could only put a couple of photos in, so thanks for sharing this.
Yeah, no problem.
What did you use for coloring, Pat, on your model?
I use Bragdon powders, and I got a way I use it is I mix alcohol with the Bragdon powders in small amounts. You get the feel of it after you've done it for a while, and I use that to color all my woods and all my siding and stuff. I've gotten used to it, and it works pretty good. I'll give you an example of.
Stains prior to that, eh?
Pardon me?
No stains prior to that?
No. If I'm working with metal, I usually spray it with a primer, and then I work from there with the powders. But I found the powders worked very well for me. I don't know. It just works pretty good. But it's an art in itself. Another thing I did find, the shingles that he had for the roof of the O scale was the wrong size. So what I did was I laid each one of these shingles individually. So they're all individually placed on that roof. So that was fun. I enjoyed it.
As you can gather, Pat is retired.
Yeah, right.
Graham, did you have? Yes, please, Graham.
Just a comment for people who say they're having trouble fitting the windows in. When you cut them out of the fret that comes with they come in, you have to cut the little tiny connectors that join the detail to the frame. And if you haven't just taken the file with a couple of strokes of the file or a piece of sandpaper along the edge, just to take off the little bits that project after you cut them out. Do it on the frame and on the opening in the wall. Then that might solve the problems that people have been having. They're very, very tiny. The laser cutting is extremely fine on these kits, but you feel it if you run your thumb or finger across it, and it's worth doing. The same on the glazing. Just a quick run with the file along the edge helps the fit quite a bit.
Thank you, Graham.
Thanks, Graham.
Yeah, Pat, if you don't mind going back on mute, or did you want to make a comment, Pat?
I did. On the windows on mine, the opening itself was too small. I had to actually widen the window a little bit at the bottom in order to fit the height of the window. Probably some small improvements can be made when he's doing the laser cutting again on the new kits. But I think he knows that, so. Yeah, I know what you're saying, Graham.
Well, for everyone, just for context, Pat was given a test O scale kit. So Nick kindly, when we had, I think Pat is the only one who did this project who wasn't in O scale, or sorry, it wasn't in HO scale, excuse me. And so Nick went back to the drawing board and resized it. And anyone who's been around a builder who's taken a plan for one type of house and simply stretched it, stretching doesn't always come out perfectly. So Pat has also kindly provided Nick with a valuation comment that will help him produce a better product. Now, I certainly was really impressed, and I don't know if we want to take a moment or two. We've only got about 15 minutes left, so I want to get things back to George, but I was really impressed with the kit. I've done a couple of other laser cut kits in years gone by with my previous layout. And along the lines of what Graham said, I was incredibly impressed with how fine the lines were cut. I didn't see any of the scorching that I remember from the 1990s with the American model builders. And that's not a criticism, it's just an observation. But the way that the windows popped in place, for me at least, was extraordinary. I've not seen anything done with that kind of tolerance to this point in time. So I'm sorry that Nick's not here, but if any of you have any positive comments or any constructive criticism for improvement that you'd like to share with Nick, look on it as supporting a Canadian manufacturer, be successful in the North American, if not international market. But I, for one, George, I know you see Nick from time to time. I was really impressed with the way everything fit together.
Yeah, clearly, his kits are some of the better kits that you can buy. If you read RMC, the February issue, I did Craftsman Workshop, and it's about 3 of his kits. But after that article, I still went and built one of his newer ones. It's their Expo kit. It's a smaller version. And the level of detail, every time he comes out with a new kit, it's way beyond what he had, in the past. Like the brickwork and that, it's amazing on it, because he's got missing bricks, and he's got, missing concrete where you can see all the metal through, and the stonework and that. It's pretty impressive. All 4 walls are different, and they got a high level of detail in them.
George, would you like to screen share again and go back to the remaining slides for us? Thanks, everyone. And just a quick reminder, as George is screen sharing, if you would like to get together again in March, let us know in the chat, and we'd love to see your finished kit for our May slideshow. And remember, the deadline date for that will be, I think it's April the 15th.
So everybody's got a lot of leftovers. I'm not sure if anybody tried to do anything with any of them yet, but I don't know. I spent part of an afternoon and came up with something. So I started out with the ends, and I just put corner bracing, and these other parts will fit right in against it. But I just glue them on. I don't even cut them at first, and then I trim them all as I go along. And you can see there how it's all glued together. Put just as all out of my scrap box, the pieces. I actually added a little bit of support in the corner there. I had a plastic door that come off of, don't know what it came off of, but I cut that in half, and that's going to be sliding doors on the front. Decided to add a chimney in the back. So there's my chimney. This is a little square that I got from Atlantic Model Works. If you ever get down to the East Coast, when they have one of the model railroad expos, it's all about structure building, and they have clinics, and all the manufacturers are there, including imagine that laser art. They're usually always there. These little freebies they give away, so they give you little tools that you can use. So it's always kind of neat to get that. So there's the doors. Yeah, that's the other side of them. So I just put them in as sliding doors. Just put a little piece of wood across the top to be hiding the track. So yeah, it was easy to go together. And, after seeing what Gary did with his, I might make a double one out of, because I've got 3, well, I actually built 4 of these kits already. So I can probably build a double in something else. So for the window frames, all I used was just all these leftover pieces that we popped the walls and windows out. I just ran the trim around there. You can see it's kind of got to that point because I don't really have a window that was going to fit. And at that point, I painted everything with a home hardware spray balm. It's a dark olive green. It's just going to be like a plywood wall and a bunch of weathering, so I didn't really need to get into too much detail. For this window, I was going to put the bottom half, put a fan in. So that's bar mills. They have these laser cut fans. So that's going to go in here on the lower half, and then the top half will have a bit of broken window maybe. So, oh, and I drilled a hole in the back for the chimney. So a lot of the coloring that I've used on my model is AK products. So stuff like this chimney here, and then on the vent, on this part of the vent cover, is what I found worked kind of neat to give you a kind of a dirty look, rusty look, is take deposits for abandoned vehicles, just paint it with that, and then once it's dry, just dab on some rust streaks. It kind of beads up on it, and then I just touch it with a paper towel, and it kind of gives you a really neat effect. And the fan blades itself, I used crusted rust deposits on there. The roofing, that's just cardstock. You can see it's just laying on a leftover piece of cardstock. So I just use cardstock, and I put a little bit of bracing on the inside just so it'll stay. So for the walls and the roofing, if you ever buy any of the Roomettes kits, and if you order any other stuff, they have sheeting that goes in to board up windows. So pretty much all is earlier version kits for $2 you can get, or $1 you can get sheets of window covering, so you can board up any of the windows. And that's just one of the pieces in there that I cut and glued in. So that's one wall is just going to be kind of weathered old plywood. For the roofing, I went a little different this time. I used Northeast scale lumber corrugated siding. It's kind of a neat product. It's a cardstock, easy to cut, easy to paint, and I just gave it some just a coat of a rust color acrylic paint to begin with, and then after that, I just put some more powders on it. And you can see here on the back window, you have the broken glass, and I've put some boards across it because I really didn't have a window that fit, so I just kind of went that route. Of course, the plywood covered the hole where the window would have been on this side. I just put a grain sack inside. That's a Junico piece, and the stacks in there. And leftover, when you trim the edges on it, the leftover pieces, I just leaned it against the side of the building with piece of board. Now, on the roomettes, this was actually already on there, so I found a piece that worked that had a sign already printed right on the cardstock. So, and then, so what do I do with it? I set it on some of my structures. Now, I built this with an overhang. I'm going to build another one, but I'm going to build it flush, so the roof is flush with it, so I can shove it in between buildings, or at least on one end flush. If I make the roof reversible, I can swing it around. So this is a railroad kit structure that actually had an add-on that I built on. The main structure here is what you get in the kit, and I added this onto it. And now I've added that on just to kind of see how it all looked. But it looked pretty good as a little outbuilding. And that's a Foss scale building. And I thought, well, it'd look okay being used on the back, but there you can see the fan and a bit of the window and all that on it. So, one side or the other gets shoved against the building. So, you can use those leftover parts to come up with some neat little additions. There's another little general store, and that could be a little outbuilding where they keep leftover crates and pop whatever, their cartons and stuff like that. So So I thought it fit in with almost all those structures. So it's something you can build and play around with. So you can get another building. You can actually get two buildings out of one kit. And there's my imagine that. Now that's the building I was talking about. That is more recent. It's a smaller. I think it was marked as an expo kit. Keeps moving on me, but all the walls are. You can see that it's got worn concrete, and you got the steel and everything showing through. The other two walls aren't really showing on this, but this was the only wall where this little thing fit on. So, I put it on, and I even looked at, you can add another structure to the side of it. So you have a lot of options. You can play around with these things. And here's your comparison. This is the kit. It comes a little bit lower and a little bit wider, but you can almost build the same thing. You can build the whole interior if you want with a lift-off roof, or you can build two together. And the next one I'm going to build is going to be I'll trim the eaves so it goes flush, so it'll fit between two buildings, because I've got two larger structures, and I thought it could be either a pass between the two buildings, but it just gives me some options. So, and I guess that's about it.
Thank you, George. George,
Yeah.
If you want to, excuse me, end your screen share, are there any final comments from anyone?
I've got one other thing I forgot to mention. That I was going to bring
Please.
that kit to our Chatham show, the little build that I did, and everybody that participated, that bought a kit and participated in this build, we'll do a little raffle. I'll put everybody's name in, and we'll pick the name out. And if it's somebody that's at Chatham, they'll get it right there. If not, I'll mail it to them. So it's kind of a little bonus for joining us for this build.
Thank you, George. George, I put a question into the chat. How did you create the weathering effect on the plywood end? It looked like it was sort of bleached lower and then still had
That's
the more wood
printed.
floor above.
Yeah, that's paper. So that's cardstock, like a paper cardstock that Roomettes gives you with their kit. The buildings a lot of them are Walther's buildings, and there's window outlets. But if you want to make it as abandoned building, they include all that, so you can fill all the windows in, and that's for one of the bigger doors. So that's all already printed like that. I might do one also, just do it all in plywood all around, just use those pieces and cover the whole building so that it's got, just corner trim and then plywood all around.
So I understand, and perhaps anyone else, so it is pre-finished cardboard?
Yeah, it's printed right on. Their kits are interiors to add into buildings, and stuff to add on, like fill in the windows and stuff like that. So he gives you the option if you want to board in some of the windows, the materials there. So I'm not sure what he does, if he shoots pictures of boarded up buildings or walls and sizes them to fit in the kits, but he does a good job on them, and it's very realistic looking. I use a lot of their plywood pieces on for boarding up windows and other little things. So it's
Thank you for sharing that. I've heard reference to, and I've seen examples of, but I've yet to actually touch one. So it's nice to have that description. So thank you, George. Ron Johnson, did you have a comment that you wanted to make?
I was just typing, I was watching YouTube yesterday, and there was an Australian program on, and the guy was using an ITLA kit as a background model. So.
Thanks for that, Ron.
Did you hear that?
Thank you. Thank you. If you have the URL anywhere in your system still for that particular video and you want to share it, I can certainly get it out to people after this program.
Okay. I also, on this kit, I really liked the roof because you could use it right out of the box, and it was engraved into the wood. So you didn't have to add paper shingles or whatever if you didn't want.
Just before we wind up, we've got a few minutes left, and thank you for that, Ron. Did anyone have any comments, additional comments that they wanted to make, brief, if you don't mind, about the kit itself? We are going to be recording the chat, and so if there's anything useful, we can easily cut and paste it and share it with Nick. No, I'm not seeing anything. But again, I encourage all of you to consider if you liked what he produced or would like to see something else or have a suggestion for any improvements. I'm sure Nick would be very, very happy to hear from it. I just want to say at this point, our thanks from the Western Ontario Division for Nick Masney and his wife of ITLA for providing the kits to us at such a very affordable discount. I also want to thank George very, very much for the time and energy that he's put. I know it's a labor of love at one level, but George, you've had a lot on your plate in the last couple of weeks, and can't thank you enough for all that you've contributed and shared with all of us, not only today, but in the previous session and in the intervening period as well. So thank you, sir, very, very much. Thank you for the others behind the scenes who've offered their support. Very much appreciated. We would very much like to know if you would be interested in seeing us do something like this again. I'll be in discussion with Ron Johnson of the International Division and also his counterpart, Malcolm Vant of the St. Lawrence Division, to see if we can continue to coordinate the remote sessions like today and January the 8th, so that we can all participate if we so choose. We'll keep information going out to all of you through your various superintendents and dispatchers. And I don't have anything further to add. George?
I just
Okay.
noticed there's a couple comments about AK paints. Now, Otter Valley has a nice selection of AK paints. There's a gentleman in St. Thomas, I can't remember the name of his, I think it's Railway City Hobbies. They have a good selection of
That's
AK.
it. Yeah, Jeff and Railway City.
Jeff Grove, yeah. He has a really good, so those are two places to consider if you're looking for AK products. Otter Valley maybe is the easiest for a lot of guys to get to in Tillsonburg, and they ship really well if you want to order something. And they have a wide selection of paints and some of their powders. So, you know, if you're looking for weathering products, that's a good place to look.
And I did mention, George, Wheels and Wings, which you put me on to. I think they've got actually the best selection of all. They're a little farther away for those of us in the WOD and quite far for the other two divisions that are represented here today, but they also do mail order. And yeah, Otter Valley I'd forgotten about, but they're pretty good. But Wheels and Wings was a great tip. So yeah, check them out. Let your fingers do the walking. Anything more, George?
No, that's it. Thank you all for participating. I was really impressed to see how all the models had turned out. That some really great, and it's given me now I'm going to go back and add some supports underneath at least one of my structures. Thanks, Graham.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great balance to your weekend. Keep modeling and please stay safe.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.